look at the fear that you're going to have to face, or look at the emotion that you have to face when you're thinking about being authentically you. Because there's going to be an emotion that will come up. Like Noble had talked about, maybe it's fear. Maybe you're afraid of what people are going to say. Maybe you're afraid of rejection. Maybe you're afraid that somebody isn't going to like you if you do it that way. Maybe it's shame or embarrassment. Maybe you feel shame because you're not who your parents wanted you to be, or you're not who this person wanted you to be, or right, or whatever it is. There could be a number of different emotions, but pay attention to that. Pay attention, because that emotion is the thing that's really at the wheel. That emotion is the thing that's driving you. So the fear of not being liked is the thing that's keeping you acting a certain way. And when you can address that emotion so that it doesn't have that control on you anymore, now you have the freedom to say, no, this is what this is going to look like. This is who God created me to be. This is the message that He has for me to share with the world right now. I can't worry about what you think of me. I can't worry about these other external factors. I have to be this.
Welcome to the EQ for Entrepreneurs podcast. Like most business owners, you already know you need good business and marketing strategies to scale and be profitable. But at some point, you've hit the dreaded wall where you feel stuck and frustrated. EQ for Entrepreneurs is for business owners and leaders who are honest enough to admit that they just might be the ones holding their business back and are brave enough to change that.
We're Noble and Kathy, and every week we're having candid conversations about all things emotional intelligence and how growing that has allowed us to get out of our own way and is radically transforming both our businesses and our personal lives. This is the secret sauce strategy for modern entrepreneurs who are tired of hustling without seeing results and want to grow a business and a life that they love.
Entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers, welcome to episode 105. So today we're going to be talking about
how to be you loudly. We just sent it. If you're on our email list, you just got an email about this. If you're not on our email list, you need to be. And we just sent an email talking about how EQ and emotional intelligence has helped us and is helping us learn how to be ourselves, but be ourselves even more loudly. And as I got into it, I realized we need to do a podcast about this. And I've already had feedback from some of you saying, yes, I want to hear about that. So here we are.
Yes, and for those y'all that are watching on our YouTube channel, EQ for Entrepreneurs, or listening to this on our podcast, EQ for Entrepreneurs, thank you so much. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing. Really appreciate that. It has been neat to hear all the fun stories of how people are connecting with each other as a result of sharing each of your different stories and emotional growth journeys, and how this journey has really been impacting you. I'm really excited about that because of, it's been such a blessing for me personally, being on the receiving end of my own emotional growth journey and how it's impacted literally every single area of our life. So really excited for those of y'all that have been sharing your respective growth journeys with us as well. And for those of you all who are really feeling like you're at a place, you're at a time, you're in a space where you're ready to take your emotional growth journey to the next level, we would love to have you join our course that we're starting today. Actually, the cart opens today. The course doesn't start today, but the cart opens today. And you can sign up for that wait list to get more information and details on that at eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA.
Let me tell you a little bit about what you're going to learn in that course. We've already taken one class through. This is a course we just made last year, and we've taken one class through, and it was phenomenal. The feedback that we got back has just been awesome. People are talking about not only how it's affected them in their business, but also in their life and in their relationships and their family. And so we are so excited to offer this again. So it's called the EQ Accelerator. And we really do a deep dive into the four main areas of emotional intelligence. So we start off with what is foundational for emotional intelligence, and that is self-awareness. Knowing, and we're going to talk a little bit about self-awareness today. But it's knowing you, it's knowing who you are, it's being able to identify your emotions in the moment as they're happening and know why they're happening, what's the cause of them. It's starting to grow your emotional vocabulary so that you have the words to even talk about it. And then we move into we move into self management. So, self management now is how do you behave in light of this, in light of the emotions and the feelings that you have? How are you behaving? How are you acting in your own life? And then after that, we dive into others awareness or social awareness. And that's where you start learning how to pick up on other people's emotions, right? It's how to read a room, how to see what somebody else might be feeling, put yourself in their shoes, have empathy for them. And then lastly, it all comes together under social management. And this is where you are now taking the information that you know about yourself, about other people, and you're using it to create really great relationships. You're using it in your business to draw and attract the right people to you and to your business. You're using it in your family to eliminate conflict or at least significantly reduce conflict, increase conversation and communication, and really make those relationships wonderful rather than just kind of getting by with them. So, and we have something new that we're going to be able to introduce into this launch of EQA. We have a new assessment that we now are going to be making available. So we're super excited about that. You want to tell them about the new assessment we're doing?
So, the industry, kind of industry wide, the four main domains that Kathy just expressed is just one model of emotional intelligence. There are actually many different EI or EQ models out there. And I just got certified in a different model that actually uses five main composites, or is how they describe these different main areas, five main composites. And each of the five main composites has three what they call subscales, or subsets, if you will, of each of the five main composites, for a total of 15 different subscales. And they actually all still fall under the four main domains, all these different, even the five different composites. So it's very similar. So it's not like it's a completely, different model that doesn't, touch or address, self awareness and self management and social awareness and social management. They just have some different, a couple more areas that they look at, which is great. And they have an assessment, a scientifically backed and based assessment that they use to be able to assess where somebody is at in their current emotional intelligence. And what's really interesting is it's not okay, you're good in this area or you're bad in this area. The kind of the assessment is more, you are exhibiting more of this at this phase in your life right now, and maybe less of this area subscale in your life right now. And then it kind of goes into a deep dive. Okay, well, let's assess that. Let's go into that a little bit more. Why are you exhibiting more of this and less of this? Is that good? Is that serving you? How is that serving you? Or maybe it's hindering you right now. How is it hindering you? How may it be limiting you in your life right now? So anyway, it's a really fascinating assessment. Again, it's scientifically backed, and it's a great tool and resource. It's going to be a great tool and resource for everyone that goes through the course, because we will potentially be able to use that with all of you that join us in this next course.
Yeah, so we're super excited. And you're going to get, not only do you get all the training online, we have a super dope workbook that you'll be able to go through. Because here's the thing, with emotional intelligence, it's not enough to just hear somebody talk about it. It's not enough to just listen to us talk about emotional intelligence. You have to do some work. Like, you have to do some work. If you really want to grow yours and affect a change, you're going to have to do some work. And that's what the workbook is designed to do. So not only do we also offer the workbook, but we also do weekly coaching, group coaching with the other members of the course and with us, where we want to hash out, okay, so if we're in the self-awareness module right now, we are going to talk about that. And we want to go deep with you, because we're not just here to entertain you, especially those of you who jump into our course. We're here to help you transform. We're here to help you grow your emotional intelligence. And we want to do it just that.
Yeah, create change in your life. Like, what area are you really wanting to focus on and grow in 2021? What area of your life maybe are you struggling in? Maybe you've plateaued. You're not getting traction in a particular area of your life. Well, I would make an argument that there could be an emotional reason deep down that you're maybe not even aware of, that is holding you back, that is preventing you from getting traction, from growing, from making change, from transforming. And a lot of us just think that, oh, I just have to work harder, or I'm just not disciplined enough, or my willpower is just not strong enough, or whatever I've said them all. Unbeknownst to me, the whole time, there were some emotional things going on below the surface that I was not aware of, that were holding me back. And as soon as I started to work intentionally at my emotional health, getting emotionally healthier, and growing my emotional intelligence, man, I was blown away at how many different areas of my life were connected to that space in my life, that place in my life. And I started to heal, I started to change, I started to transform, I started to grow. God started to work in these different areas of my life. He started to heal these different areas of my life, again, that I had stuffed and avoided my entire life. And so we really just want to share, again, the blessing of this course, and the possibility of transforming for those of you, again, that decide to join us, because it is life changing, y'all. It is life changing. And to be able to do it in a supportive, like-minded community is also tremendously powerful and beneficial. It's a safe community, it's a caring community, it's a supportive community. Everybody is working on stuff. I don't know anybody who, I mean, maybe there are some folks out there, but the majority of people are walking around with emotional injuries that they may or may not even be aware of, that absolutely are hindering you in some area of your life, or some areas of your life that, again, you may or may not even be aware of. So this course could do a lot to help you really make some changes in 2021 that will have tremendous ripple effects too. I mean, well, anyway, if you could go back and listen to some of the other episodes we've done, you will hear. In fact, there's one or two just in the past, I'd say 10 episodes. It's in the 90s somewhere, where I go through and I literally list all the different areas that I have been dysfunctional in, and all the different areas that I have gotten healing and growth and change in, actual tangible growth and change in, as a result of this whole, God working through this whole emotional growth journey that we have been participating in.
So anyways,
ready?
We'd love to have you guys.
Yeah,
the EQ Accelerator doors open today. They'll be open for till the end of this week, and then we actually start the course next Monday. So
yeah,
love to have you guys.
And again, that's eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. Okay, and now to kick off this episode here, I want to share just an example. So this is, again, how to be you loudly. How to be you loudly. God only made one of you. We are all like a big giant fingerprint walking around. There's no no uh, other of you walking around as a duplicate. And some of us are still trying to walk around trying to be someone else for somebody else to try to please a parent, an uncle, a relative, a coach, uh, a spouse, a whatever, fill in the blank, a group of your military buddies, your whatever, your college buddies, your high school buddies. We're trying to fit in. We're tribal people, we're relational people, and so many of us try to please the Joneses for what? For what? And that subconscious driver is preventing you from being you loudly. If you're doing that, let me give you a story.
First, before you story, can we describe what we mean by be you loudly?
Sure, please.
So I think I just want to start here because this has been me, and I've heard from some of you that you have also been here. Let's see, I recorded an episode, I can't remember which one it was, but it's all about hiding, and have you been hiding, right? And I think so many people are hiding in their own lives, and they're hiding because there's a lot of different reasons, but basically what I mean by when I say hiding, it's when you're not even showing up for your own life, when you're not even showing up as yourself, when you're afraid to say the things that you think. And in today's day and age, like, we live in obviously what's called this cancel culture, right? Whereas if somebody doesn't like what you have to say, they'll just shut you down and shut you up, and you feel like you have to silence your voice because you're going to either make these people upset or you will make them angry or whatever. And what happens is we end up playing small. We end up playing small and hiding in our own life. And when you're an entrepreneur, you can't do that. Right? We can't hide as an entrepreneur, because in order to grow a business, in order to grow a brand, in order to grow your influence in whatever way you want that to look like, people have to know who you are. They have to know who you are. In today's society, everything is competing for attention, right? Your audience's attention, for your attention. All of social media is competing for your attention, for their attention. All of society, it's so noisy. Like, we live in a very noisy world right now, and the last thing that you want to be is vanilla, because that's what happens. That's what happens is when you don't know who you are and you're not able to be yourself and to be you loudly, you just wind up being vanilla. You're kind of the background noise, and nobody pays any attention to you. And we're going to talk about some of the reasons, and Noble's already touched on that, on why this happens. But the problem is when you're vanilla and when you're just background noise in everybody else's life, you don't make the impact that you're designed to make. You don't make the impact you were created to make, right? You're here to affect people's lives. You're here to make a difference. And we can't do that when we're hiding, and we can't do that from the background, and we can't do that when nobody knows who we are. And so anyways, I just wanted to kind of set the ground for what we mean when we talk about why we're talking about how to be you loudly, because I think a lot of us are there. Not everybody, but a lot of us are there. And if you're there, this episode is for you.
Yeah, and it's being authentic. It's when your inside matches your outside, when your words and thoughts and actions and beliefs all line up. That is being you loudly. It's embracing how God made you. It's embracing, well, first of all, being able to identify what your unique gifts, skills, talents, and abilities are, identifying them, and then embracing them and growing them and maximizing them and optimizing them. And it's tough to do all that if you are not aware of, or maybe you are aware of, and like me, I was aware of a number of my gifts, but man, I was terrified. There's a chapter in the Bible, Matthew 25:14-30, where it talks about the parable of the talents. And check that out. It's a great entrepreneur. It's one of my favorite entrepreneur sections of the Bible. And they talk about how the boss man had three employees, and he was going on a vacation, and he gave each employee a certain amount of money based on their talents and abilities. And the first guy he gave 10 talents to, the second guy he gave, and this may be off a little bit with the numbers, but maybe it's 5 talents. I think it's 5 talents, 2 talents, and 1 talent. So you know, let's say 5 grand, 2 grand, and 1 grand, for example, dollars there. And he said, "Hey, I'll be back. I'll be back whenever I am back." He didn't say exactly when he's going to come back, but I'm going to take a long vacation with the family, maybe Miami, or maybe he was going to Colorado, or maybe Fiji, or wherever he was going. And he left him and said, "Hey, double, make me money, make me money while I'm gone. I'm paying you guys, make me money while I'm gone." And the first 2 employees doubled the income, the money that the boss gave to them. The third guy had the money and he buried it. He literally buried it in the backyard. And why? Because he was afraid. He literally buried his talents, the money in the backyard. I mean, I have played small most of my life in so many different ways because of my people pleasing addiction and my insecurity, my imposter syndrome, all the different things that were hindering me. And here's how this played out. So we actually became financially independent, Kathy at 27 and me at 30 years old. Financially independent, y'all. 30 years old. It was amazing feeling in one regard. As a result of reaching that level, we got asked to speak many hundreds of times in front of crowds of the thousand or more people to share our story. Well, the first time they asked us to do that, man, initially I was excited. 30 minutes prior to going up on stage in front of 1,000 people, it was in this big auditorium. The lights were low except for on the stage. There's huge, bright stage lights. We're dressed up. I'm in a suit. Kathy's in this fancy dress, and we were about to be we were like the second or third speaker on deck. And man, I almost had an anxiety attack. I almost couldn't think straight because I was terrified. I even had notes. I had notes, typed out. Man, I was ready to go, from a logistical standpoint, from a planning standpoint, but emotionally, I was terrified, gripping fear, sweat. I was sweating. My heart rate was on fire. Hands were sweating, palms were sweating. My breathing increased. I felt like I was, running a marathon, and I was, waiting backstage to go on stage. And when we got our names were called, man, it was hard to think straight. Bring up Noble and Kathy Gibbons, boom. Right. So we go up on stage, man, and now I'm looking at these bright stage lights. It's tough to see the crowd. And they're clapping and ready to hear from this couple that is financially independent at 27 years old and 30 years old. And man, I had a tough time even thinking straight. And what's funny is that when it was all done, and so, I don't know, 30-minute speech, we get done, and I had no idea what just happened. Like I couldn't even remember what I said. I couldn't. It was like I lost time. It was like, time, like we fast forwarded, and I missed the last 30 minutes of what just happened. And so ironically, so check this out. That was one time. Again, we had gotten requested to speak hundreds of times. And every single time for 15 years, y'all, 15 years, we have spoken to crowds of 1,000 to 10,000 people for 15 years. Every single time I would go through that process, I would stress, heart rate, anxiety, because, and here's the thing, what's crazy. I never took the time to figure out why I was doing that. I never understood that it was this underlying people-pleasing addiction that I had. I was terrified. Well, man, are they going to like me? What if they don't like me? What if they reject me? What if they hate me? What if I don't, my message isn't spot on? What if, right? It was all selfish. It was all this anxiety of trying to please everyone. And how much can I be me loudly when I'm thinking about 1,000 other people, when I'm thinking about, oh, well, am I going to please this person? Am I going to please, how about, am I going to please God? Am I fully bringing the strengths that God has given me to bear? Am I, it's tough to be me loudly. It's tough to even know who I am when I'm always thinking about how to please somebody else. And so that is perfect example of how for the majority of my life I have played small and hidden and buried my talents in the backyard because I was afraid of the crowd, of the masses, of the haters. And I am so excited that finally, better late than never, halfway through my life here, that God is healing me in a number of these areas emotionally, so that I'm no longer I don't care. I don't if some praise and criticism have much less impact on me now than it ever has before. Before it would either take me to the moon of making me feel so good, or taking me, to the pits, man, if I receive praise or criticism. And now I appreciate praise. I'm very thankful. I love feedback, and it feels great, but it doesn't define me anymore. It's not my identity anymore. It doesn't I'm not as emotionally needy anymore. And same thing with hate, with criticism. Oh man, no, I think that your podcast is terrible, or that episode was terrible, or you're a waste of skin, or whatever the criticism is. Man, hey, thank you so much for your input. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your thoughts or opinions. But it doesn't define me anymore. It doesn't control me anymore. I'm not going to obsess or consume. It's not going to consume me anymore. So that is a very real example. It's my example of how I have played small for so long, and I have not been able to be me loudly because of this massive addiction of people pleasing in my life.
Yeah, let me give you a quick example from myself, and hopefully you'll find yourself, if this is something that you're working on as well, in kind of our examples. But for me, I really started noticing, wow, I don't even really know who I am when, well, we had started doing some of our emotional work already, but we were also starting to build a brand. Because here's the thing, we had built our
Mm,
business for
yeah.
decades offline, really, for all intents and purposes. We didn't have a big social media presence. We didn't know anything about that. And so it wasn't until just a little while ago that we started working on building a social media brand. And I started listening to, different teachers on how to do this. And shout out to Jenna Kutcher, and one of her podcasts, she had said she recommends, if you're getting started on social media and you don't know what to post, to pick 5 things about yourself, right? Pick 5 things about you, and that this is kind of going to be your strategy that you're going to post about to let people get to know you, right? Because people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so if they don't know you, they can't like you and trust you. And so you have to kind of open up a little bit about yourself and just share and kind of put yourself out there. Well, that whole thought absolutely terrified me, because I thought, well, I don't know what I would talk about. I don't think there's anything interesting about me that even anybody wants to hear about. And what do I like? What am I interested in? I don't even know. Like, I realized I don't even know who I am. And so if I don't even know who I am, or what I like, or what I have to offer, how is anybody going to be interested? How can I even put it out there? There's nothing for people to connect with that way. And I thought, man, this is ridiculous. How am I to this place when I'm in my 40s and I don't even know really who I am? And if I don't know who I am, how can I be that loudly? Like, how can I be who I am? And isn't that a crazy place to be? Isn't that crazy to be at this place and not know who I am and what I like and what I love and what drives me and my quirks and all these little things? And the thing that I realized is, you have to understand where that can come from. It can come from a couple different places. Number one, it can come if you've been trying to conform to somebody else's standard. If you've been trying to conform to a group standard, like Noble's already mentioned, if you've been trying to conform to being XYZ because somebody's telling you that XYZ is what it takes to succeed, or XYZ is who you need to be, or only these kinds of people succeed. That kind It can come from that, but it can also come from, I learned about this in a book called Running on Empty. It can also come from not having your emotional needs met. It can come from not having emotional awareness. If you weren't taught that you were important enough to matter, then you will come away not knowing, again, not knowing who you are. In my case, it's not that my parents taught me that I wasn't important, but I did go through some childhood trauma. My mom had gotten sick with cancer while I was young and she passed away. And when you go through some kind of trauma, it affects us in different ways. And one of the ways it affected me is it just made me think, well, I'm not important. There's other things that are more important. And so I just never learned to learn who I am and to learn the things about me that I probably should have learned about myself. So there's different reasons that you can get here. And this podcast episode is not necessarily to do a deep dive into that. Hopefully you'll jump in our course and do a little bit more deep dive into that. But what we want to do is we want to just really bring to light that the fact that if you're having trouble being yourself and being you loudly, that can change. You can work on that. You can grow in that area. It's something that we're growing in, something that we're working on, and making a difference. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. Again, especially on social media, people need to be able to see you. You have a message. You have a voice. And your voice is not like anybody else's. And so when you're either trying to be like somebody else, you guys, I can think of examples right now. They're popping into my brain as I'm talking, of people who, when they get around a particular group, it's almost like they change into somebody totally different. And they're doing it because there's pressure there. There's pressure to do that. There's pressure to become this other person. And what happens after too long is you start to lose who you are. You start to lose touch with yourself and what you really like and the life you really want to live and the way you want to do it and all these things, because there's so much pressure from the group to be this one way.
It can just to caveat real quickly, it can happen in the military, right? Because the military is a very all-consuming experience for those of us that are military, either active duty or former military. Thank you for your service, by the way, if you are, or I'm sure law enforcement or first responders. Those are very consuming professions and careers, and it is very possible for. I mean, how many times have I seen this where somebody has spent 20, 25 years in the military and they get out and they still think they have the rank on, emotionally. They still think that they're a colonel or a sergeant major or whatever their rank was. And they treat other people that way. And it's like, dude, you can't treat people in the civilian world like you did in the military. It's not an authoritarian culture, just out and about living your life. And so, or business, I've seen business cultures that, like Kathy said, man, you get into this particular business culture, and if you better conform. That you better conform, or man, the second you do not conform, they will
try to get you back in line.
Yeah, they will try to get you back in line, or they will kick you out. So, and for me, I read a book called by Urban Meyer called, he's a big football coach, called Above the Line. And this is just a few years ago. And he was sharing his leadership philosophy. It was kind of a leadership book. And I thought to myself, he has his whole system. I thought, man, what's my leadership philosophy? My entire life, I have bought somebody else's leadership philosophy. Oh, at West Point, this is what leadership is. In the 82nd Airborne Division, this is what leadership is. Then in business, this particular business culture, this is what leadership is. And I thought, man, after I started growing myself emotionally, and I started to realize, because I was emotionally needy and really codependent on all these different organizations and people, I never developed my own leadership philosophy. What's my own leadership philosophy? What do I believe is important in leadership? I had taken everyone else's leadership philosophy because of people pleaser addiction, and never develop what my own leadership philosophy is. So this can play out in so many different ways, and it's subtle, y'all. It's subtle. It can be very, very subtle how this can, how how culture has potentially silenced you, how culture has somehow instilled fear, anxiety, because again, God forbid we're different. It's which is so funny to even say that. Everybody's different. But man, if you express your difference, boy, there are some groups of people out there that will crucify you if you're different. And has that affected you? Has that led you to subconsciously, you may not even be aware of it, has caused you to start living small, playing small, hiding from who God has really called you to be, from being, your true self, from being, you loudly.
Look at the people you follow on social media who are interesting, right? And there you are going to notice there is always something about them, some way in which they are very unique. That's very unique to them, that they're kind of loud about. It could be something that they believe, something that they do, something about the way that they look, a message. I don't know what it is, but there's always going to be something. So the thing that we just want to leave you guys with is just to encourage you to, how do you do that? How do you be you loudly? Well, number one, it starts with knowing you, right? You have to know who you are. You have to know, this is who I am. This is what I like. This is what I like to do. This is what I don't like to do. Maybe this is how I like to dress. Whatever it is, you have to start by knowing you. Number two, you have to look at in which ways have you been affected, or have you been either made to or felt like you need to play small or change who you are to please somebody else, right? So identify those, write those down. What does that look like for you? And how have you adapted? Is it always bad? No, it's not always bad. Obviously, if you're in the military, you're going to have to wear the uniform, right? You don't get to show up in anything that you want to wear. But that's when you're on the job, right? How has that affected you in the rest of your life? How has that played over into your life outside the military, just for example? And then number three, really work to get in touch with how do you want to live your life? Like who do you want to be when it comes to being a business owner, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to your social media? Are you just doing things because this is what somebody has said, oh, this is what you need to do to be successful? Or are you doing them because you really have a love for that, and this is how you want to live, and this is how you want to present your message? So understand that, yes, there's a fine line between, okay, no, I have to learn some strategy, because sometimes there is some strategy behind what you do, but you always need to do it from a perspective of being very authentically yourself. And so I would just want to encourage you to maybe dig into that a little bit and look at, okay, who am I letting affect me? Why? What is the outcome of them having that influence and that effect on me? Um, and I think one of the biggest fears, well, look at the fear that you're going to have to face, or look at the emotion that you have to face when you're thinking about being authentically you. Okay, this is good. This is coming out. This is coming out of my brain here. Because there's going to be an emotion that will come up. Like Noble had talked about, maybe it's fear. Maybe you're afraid of what people are going to say. Maybe you're afraid of rejection. Maybe you're afraid that somebody isn't going to like you if you do it that way. Maybe it's shame or embarrassment. Maybe you feel shame because you're not who your parents wanted you to be, or you're not who this person wanted you to be, or right, or whatever it is. There could be a number of different emotions, but pay attention to that. Pay attention, because that emotion is the thing that's really at the wheel. That emotion is the thing that's driving you. So the fear of not being liked is the thing that's keeping you acting a certain way. And when you can address that emotion so that it doesn't have that control on you anymore, now you have the freedom to say, no, this is what this is going to look like. This is who God created me to be. This is the message that He has for me to share with the world right now. I can't worry about what you think of me. I can't worry about these other external factors. I have to be this. How about the fear of people not wanting to be with you anymore, or people abandoning you? If you decide that, no, I want to, explore, I want to be this person, or I want to let this side of me show a little bit more, because this is who God made me to be, and I need to be who He made me to be. So, anyways, hopefully that came out right and made sense to y'all.
Yeah, no, that's a great. It was a great, babe. You know, your strengths. What are your strengths? What's your personality? You what are your experiences? What value do you bring to the table? Realizing and discovering that stuff is critical in in being you loudly also. And that takes time, it takes intention, it takes work, and it takes self-awareness, it takes self-management, and and I also think that it takes healing. The healthier we get emotionally, the more authentic you will be able to be. The healthier you get emotionally, the more authentic you will be able to be. And God only made one of you. He didn't call you to be somebody, version of somebody else. He made you you. So and why did he make you? With your gifts and your story and your message and your calling, and your passions, and that kind of thing. So really, man, it's so powerful. You, Mike Murdoch quote here: "You are a solution to somebody else's problems." You are. If you don't know who you are, man, we're not going to be as effective in helping people with however you're supposed to be helping them, if you are playing small or hiding or not aware of who God has called you to be.
So, anyways, we just want to wrap this up again, just with an invitation. If you're like, yes, I need to grow my emotional intelligence, I need this to affect me in my business, in my family, in my life, in my relationships, in your job, wherever you're at, we would love to have you join us. Again, the class starts next week. You can sign up now today, eqforentrepreneurs.com/EQA. Join the EQ Accelerator. Because I promise, everybody who has jumped on this journey with us, and everybody who said, yes, I need to grow my emotional intelligence, 100% of them has said, this has changed my life. This has changed my life in only positive ways. So we'd love to have you join us.
And realize we're going through this course with you. We are going through. This is not a one and done. Hey, sign up, and it's we'll see you in 8 weeks and tell us how it goes. We are going through this journey with you all, and and I say this all the time after almost every episode. Remember that emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. Emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally.